Okay, so now that you know some of the basic commands in the command line, I'm going to show you how to turn those commands into a batch file. A batch file runs on its own and it executes those commands one at a time. So all we need to do is come up with a sequence of commands that we would normally type in one at a time, put them in a single file, and run it. Now, what do you need to create a batch file? A text editor. Basic application. It's going to use ASCII text. That's all it is. So all a batch file is just a collection of commands written in plain text. One of the text editors that we can still get to, though there was some talk of them eliminating it, is Notepad. So I'm going to open up Notepad and I'll use this to create my batch file, right? So I'm going to create basically the same thing I did before. I'm going to create a temp folder inside the C drive. And then inside that temp folder, I'm going to store a file called test.txt that lists the directory of C. Okay. So in a batch file, you're never sure what directory you're going to be launching that batch file in, right? So you have to plan for that contingency, right? So before I use change directory and a couple of dots, right, to change directory because I was working in user/admin. I don't know if that's where I'm going to be when I run this batch file, right? It might run automatically when a person logs in. I might run it from a USB drive. I'm not sure. So I'm going to do something slightly different. And I'm going to change directory to C:\\. What that does is it navigates me right to the root of C. So now I know no matter where I'm at, I'm going to be in C root, right? So change directory to C, and then I'm going to make a directory, and I'm going to call it temp. And that should make the directory on the root of the C, right? And then I'm going to do a directory with the greater than symbol. Oops, I forgot the C. Tell it where I want that file. Right? And there we are, okay? So now that's the only commands I want. Changing the directory, making a directory, creating a text file. Very, very simple batch file, right? So now I'm going to save this file. Okay, and I'm going to put it inside, though normally you wouldn't store it here. I'm going to store it in the root of C. So I'm going to call it sample. And instead of .text, I'm going to put a .bat on it, B-A-T for batch file, right? So I'm going to say that. Oh, I don't have permission because I'm not administrator. All right. So let's put it in. Let's put it right in admin. Boop. Okay. So there we go. I didn't run Notepad as administrator, so I don't have permission to save the C drive. So now I've saved it, right? So let me navigate to that file folder. So we're going to be in C, users, admin, and there is my sample. Now notice when I look at that sample, right, on the right underneath type, it says Windows batch file. How does it know that? The three-letter file extension, .bat. That represents a batch file, and Windows recognizes it as a valid file extension. So it's saying, yep, that's your batch file. Now, if I run it, it should execute those commands. So what I'm going to do here, let me make sure I don't have temp located in C. I still do. So let me get rid of that. Okay. So just to make sure I'm starting from scratch. And rather than run it from Windows, so if I go into users, admin, if I double click on that sample file, it's going to run. But what's going to happen is it's going to call up command prompt, execute the commands, and close command prompt, right? I want to be able to see these commands executed. So just for purposes of illustration, I'm going to open up the command prompt. All right. Now here I am in users, so I'm going to look at directory, and my batch file should be in there. Let's see it. Well, I'm gonna see. Oh, there it is, sample.bat, right? So if I run that file, I should see the commands going. Bloop, bloop. There we go. So now notice, I didn't turn echo off. Remember that echo command? So sample.bat is called. It changed directory to C. There's my C drive. Makes the directory temp. Does the directory, does the directory command, stores it in ctemp test.txt. And right now what I should see is a test.txt file, which I do. So let me open it. And there she is, right? So I've done the same exact thing, except I've done it in a batch file, right? Automated those commands. So now if I wanted a directory of a particular file folder, I just have to double click on that batch file and boop, there it goes, a text copy of my directory, right? That's all it takes to running the batch file. So let me close this command prompt here. Let me edit this. I'm going to right click on the sample batch file, say edit, and in front of that I'm going to say echo off. All right, just to illustrate, I'm going to save this, close it. Let me go to my C drive and get rid of my temp folder. All right, so now let me run this on the command prompt again. So sample.bat. This should look a little different. Boom. Doesn't show me anything. Why? I turned echo off. I don't want the user seeing what commands I'm executing. But if I take a look at my C drive again, oops, sorry, goofed. I should see temp. I do. I should see test. And inside test, I should see my directory, right? So the echo off command simply hides the commands from being shown. One last run, and then I'll let you go. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to delete this temp folder again. Oops. And I'm going to run it one more time. So this time I'm going to run it right from my Windows Explorer window, just to show you what it looks like. Boom. Doesn't look like much. I don't even know if you can even see that in the YouTube video, but the command prompt, boom, pops up and disappears, right? Opens and closes automatically, but there's my temp folder, there's my test file, and there's my directory, right? So just an experience of how to do it. Now, batch files can get really cool and really fancy and really automated, but that's the basics of it, right? A text file with a .bat extension that has several commands listed. That's all it takes to creating a batch file. How complicated you get depends on how good you are at it and how well you know the command line interface commands, right? So give yours a shot, do the assignment. If you have any questions, you know where I'm at.